All right, welcome to the book club. I'm Dylan, here with America's #1 Cheez-It assassin, Keith. What's up, buddy?
Extra crispy Cheez-It assassin. Make sure we define that correctly. Thank you.
It's weird that it took so long for that to catch on.
Crazy.
Some places people don't even know you can ask for the fries extra crispy. I'm like, you're living with them soggy fries? Like In-N-Out, terrible fries, but you can also get them to order, so you might as well get those things crisped up. Here at the Buddy Book Club, we're breaking down some bestsellers, and this week we'll be discussing Separation of Power by Vince Flynn. If you'd like to recommend a book for us to read or reach out to us about any past episodes, you can visit our website, buddybookclub.com, or sign to our DMs on Twitter, Instagram, Buddy Book Club Podcast. You can listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts, so please download and subscribe. Keith, we're going back to Vinny Flynn, back to the Vinny Flynn well. It's actually kind of surprising to me that we've done 70 plus episodes, and this is only our third foray into the world of Mitch Rapp.
Well, considering Mitch Rapp books used to comprise 98% of the books I've read, I didn't read anything else. It's kind of funny that we've expanded out.
Yeah, so Separation of Power, 4.32 on Goodreads, which is astounding, really. Technically, it's the fifth Mitch Rapp book because there was a couple of like prequels that came out, but really it's the third. It doesn't really matter when it comes to Mitch Rapp books. Like, you can pick them up and you know you're going to fall right into it. This one, whether it hurts your feelings or not, whether it makes you like it less or not, it spends a lot of time at the beginning rehashing stuff that happened in the book before this, which was the third option. So for a reminder to all the listeners out there, Transfer of Power is #1 and is #1 in our hearts because it's just the best story in terms of fast-paced action thriller. Third option comes after that, pretty much a completely separate story, although like Anna Riley comes into it. And then Separation of Power takes place 2 weeks after where third option left off, because third option kind of had an open ending. They didn't find out who the leak was within the U.S. government, whatever the case was. And this book puts a bow on that storyline. Okay, let's jump into some stock up, stock down. Keith, what do we got for stock up on Separation of Power?
Stock up, resisting temptation. Let's get out in front of this real quick. The Donatella and Mitch relationship, not great. Not a great relationship.
It's not a great relationship?
Not one that is as good as a Mitch Rapp supporter that you like to see. You're saying
his actions aren't great?
Correct.
Okay. Because that was like, it seems like it was a lustful, hot and heavy, Titanic-esque situation. So you're saying it's a bad look for Mitch.
And maybe he's Italian or something, very like huggy-duggy. I'm coming at it from my mindset where like, he's like hugging her and kissing her on the forehead and doing this stuff. I'm like, don't touch me. Like, don't come near me. You know what I mean? Like that, to me, that's a full-on relationship, what he's doing with her. It's just, it's too over the top.
Donatella is a sensual person. She's Italian. Putting her tongue down the throat is like, is doing a limp fish handshake.
Right, okay. My bad. See, that's the thing. It's more of a cultural difference. When he's like rubbing her back, I'm like, all right, bro, come on. That's too far. I just didn't care for it. He luckily does resist the temptations of everything else, I guess. He doesn't have sex with her, and that's basically it.
I mean, he probably would have if opportunity got there.
But the reason it's a stock up is because he did that, but Donatella couldn't. And I'll tell you why. And it's not because she tried to break up him and Anna, which she did, and she's a terrible person. Multiple times she tried to do that. It's because she gets shot, and there's blood everywhere. Does she say, give me a tourniquet, let's put some pressure on this? What does she do? She immediately asks for that drip. She's like, give me that heroin, let's get back into it. Give me that morphine. She was very, very over the top. Give me morphine. Isn't this an addict? Are you allowed to do that? She just fell off the wagon, right? After that 10 years of sobriety is gone now. She's back full heroin addict after this, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I couldn't imagine also, because considering she's a recovering heroin addict, that she just has morphine on hand. Like, good for her abilities to just lay off of it.
Is heroin just usually in a medic kit?
Well, it's not heroin, it's morphine that she has.
Whatever. It's the same thing. I mean, kind of.
Yeah. I mean,
well, she was like, go get the first aid kit. I didn't know most first aid kits just have morphine in them. Is that? Or maybe she has like a rugged one.
She's got like a military grade first aid kit. So, yeah, imagine you go down to Walgreens and you grab a first aid kit. It's just got heroin in it. Oh, wow. All right. Yeah, morphine just like clean heroin. It's a Tootsie Pop before it falls into a muddy pit, you know?
Also, just to finish up the Resisting Temptation stock, there's a point in the book that I think Rudin,
Chairman Rudin,
is shocked, and the analogy that's used is Rudin is so shocked that his eyes bulge out like a pervert at a strip club, and clearly Vince didn't meet many perverts in his life. A pervert's eyes wouldn't bulge out at a strip club. That's child's play for them and for me. I mean, what? But then like a nun, right? A nun's eyes would bulge out, or like someone that's not used to going there. But a pervert needs some dark, depraved shit. That's what they need for their eyes to pop out, right? That's what I need too. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, it didn't make sense.
It didn't make it. Didn't make
That's
any
not resisting
sense.
temptation. Yeah.
Pervert at a playground, maybe, but come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, you think the strip club would be that's just every day. They don't even bat an eye.
Have you been to a strip club and seen regulars? They are the most least entertained people there. They're like, whatever, this is just, it's like a job for them. They're like throwing $1 bills. They're not happy. Nothing's good about it. They're just like, I got to be here,
Yeah. I can't say that I have experienced that, but, or usually I'm not like looking around to see who the regulars are.
I'm just always like gassed by like how confident people are at a strip club. I'm always like, I need to drink 30 more drinks, otherwise I'm going to be so uncomfortable I won't be able to stand here or be here in any way.
Yeah, the last time I think I was at a strip club was in New Orleans for a bachelor party, and the only reason why I went in was because we hadn't eaten lunch, and our buddy convinced the bouncer to let us in because it was like noon. There's no one in the place. He convinced us to let us in if we could order pizza there. And the guy agreed. So we had pizzas, and there was a pool table in the back. So I was like, "Oh, great!" I was eating pizza and playing pool. Like that was my experience. It was awesome.
I wrote a good blog on how I would fix strip clubs. Instead of having girls strip, it's just them telling me I'm good at stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh, that would have been way better if just instead of the stripper stripping, they just watched me play pool and they're like, "Wow, that was a really good bank shot." I'd be like,
that's all I want.
You.
Or I also wrote like. Or I go in there and someone just tells me I'm worthless because I am, and that helped too. That's good. I'm into that.
They have those. They have those.
Oh, do they? Oh,
yeah.
All right. I wasn't aware.
My first stock up is that talking is overrated. And I know it's not good for the pod considering all we do is talk, but it's one of Mitch's favorite lines. Talking is overrated. And it works so well for him because he can use it whenever he wants. So like Anna is coming at you trying to find out what's the deal with Donatella. Who is this woman? And he's like, sorry, talking's overrated. It's one of my favorite things to say and do. So we're just not going to talk. Cop asked you how many drinks you've had. Sorry, talking's overrated. I'm not going to be doing that anymore. It just seems so simple. And it almost seems contrived by Mitch. Like he knew that he could just use that whenever he wanted to. So it became one of his quote unquote favorite lines. It's something he just planted the seed with early on to Anna. He's like, oh, by the way, I always say talking's overrated. So, just know that. And then he planted it until it really mattered. And then he started using it. What else, Jeff?
The war in Iraq stock up. I think we've been over this before, but I was never a fan of the war in Iraq. I was a big anti-war guy. You know me.
Mission accomplished. Yeah, I got you.
Was it just that we didn't have Mitch Rapp over there? That's why we didn't find nuclear materials? Do we ever consider that? Is it just that we just didn't have him over there?
Yeah.
He goes in there. He's in there for like 15 minutes, and he's finding the nuclear bombs. He's imitating, Uday Hussein. He's knocking people out, shooting people in the head. Easy day. I mean, the war would be 2 days, and we'd just let Mitch go over there.
Or stock down Vinny Flynn. I hate to say it. I really do. But stock down Vinny Flynn because he had me convinced after reading this book, yep, Saddam's got nuclear weapons under a hospital. It's 100% certain. If the UN went over there and didn't find anything, I'm like, that's why. It's the UN. Where's Mitch Rapp? So when George W. is like, we got to go, I'm like, send him. Send Mitch. It's just so interesting because you kind of forget, and it seems so dated, just how big of a deal this Saddam Hussein guy is. If someone says to me now, just Saddam Hussein, the first thing that's coming to my head is the picture of him when they found him in that little hole in the ground. Looking disheveled, emaciated, a total loser. I mean, he's a loser anyways, but the fact, just like, he looks weak. That's what comes to my head, not this crazy dictator who was America's like number one enemy for like a decade. It's just so weird because it seems so dated, yet it was only 20 years ago. But I guess 20 years is kind of a long time in human life. I don't know.
I also looked up Yude Hussein. I thought it was going to be like a 2-paragraph thing on Wiki. Like, oh, there's the brother. It's like a book worth of material on him and all the vicious and terrible things he did. So Vinny actually did a great job introducing the world to him. I didn't realize he was this big of a character in real life.
Honestly, at the time, we were both 10. It wasn't something that our parents are going to be sitting around the dinner table and be like, hey, you hear about Uday cutting that guy's balls off and feeding it to his dogs? My other stock up is off-the-cuff public addresses. Once the president does his whole thing, figures out how to get Mitch in there, how to turn on Rudin and everything, you're assuming that his people are going to provide him this lengthy speech he can just go off and say everything. I was like, nah, you know what? All the good speeches come off the cuff. And I respected that, and I do agree with it. I think if you have something that you have to say to a group, I feel like for most people, it's usually around like a wedding speech. I feel like that's probably the most popular. It's best to just go off the cuff, but do exactly what Hayes does here, which is he sits down, nice quiet time before this speech, and he just writes out some bullet points, the ideas he wants to discuss, and then he's going to elaborate on his own, which is the best way to do that. I will say, though, if you are going to do a speech, coming from some experience here, I've had to do this a couple times, you can write out the whole thing and have the whole thing prepared, but in order to not make it seem like you did, you have to take a little clue, something that happened earlier in the day at the wedding or something that someone else said, and work that into your speech so it seems off the cuff. It's like, oh, there's no way he wrote this before because this just happened.
Yeah, that's a good point. You're just talking about someone that's good at public speaking that can do that. Like, most people aren't good public speakers. They can just go up there and riff.
Well, that's why you have the talking points to call back.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, I just need to practice. I've done it many times, and the ones I didn't thoroughly practice enough, it showed, So for me, I just need, it's just one of my buddies. The thing with this one is I know everyone, these are all my buddies, all my friends. You have to be funny. You want it to be good.
Yeah.
You need it to be good. And so I was so nervous beforehand. I practiced with another buddy right before. And I was like, I'll just run through it. And I couldn't speak. And he was like, yeah, that was good. That was okay. I literally could not. I blacked out. I couldn't get anything out because I was so nervous. I got up there, I was okay. I was fine. It wasn't that bad, but I just don't remember giving it.
Yeah, blackout.
Yeah, complete blackout. I mean, that's why you need to practice, because if that happens, you don't have anything in your head. It's just like, well, that's it.
That's why I like the talking points, and obviously a couple of stiff ones, or maybe one stiff one before.
Oh, yeah.
Another quick one I had for stock up here is diversionary tactics, stock up. And considering that this is a CIA, story, there's lots of military operations going on. You'd think that's where I'm going, but no, I'm going a different way. So Rapp's in hot water because of the whole Donatella situation. Mm-hmm. And rightfully so. I mean, I don't think we've discussed it enough that what he did was abhorrent behavior for someone that's about to ask someone to marry him. He takes his girlfriend, who he's going to propose to Milan, with the intent of proposing in Milan, has the ring in his pocket, and he's playing tonsil hockey with another woman. I don't care if you're a master spy or whatever the case is. You don't need to do that. And I know they were being surveyed at the time. So sure, you can give her a kiss, you can hold on to her, give her a hug, pretend you're kissing her neck, like some Passion Cove styles.
I'll jump in there. That's acting. That's 100% different. When he was meeting her for dinner and being like, I know you're such a great, and hugging her and doing all these affectionate things, that's 1,000 times worse to me than the kiss thing was like, my life's in danger. I need to pretend that's like an actor kissing someone. It doesn't matter.
But do you need tongue? Why do you need the tongue?
Oh, what's your tongue?
There was tongue involved. Why do you need the tongue?
I mean, kid, it's got to be realistic. We're acting here. Come on.
What if he passed a venereal disease on to Anna Riley from Donatella? We don't know her situation. I digress. To my point. Diversionary tactic. So Anna finds out about Donatella, and what does Mitch do? Goes off and saves the world. Goes to Iraq, saves the world. Smart. Gets his face put on national television as the man who saved the world. It's subtext in the book. They didn't say it, but Mitch Rapp had his face put out there because he knew Anna wouldn't be mad at him anymore. At the end of the book, she comes back to him, and her only gripe is that she doesn't know when he's gone, if he's coming home. Not if he's hooking up with Italian supermodels.
I'd also, I think, give Mitch the benefit of the doubt. I mean, I think knowing what we know, I wouldn't, but knowing what she knows, like he's like, oh, this dude's literally going out murdering people for me and stuff. I think I'd give him the benefit of the doubt.
Murdering people for me.
Like she's like 2 books. For 2 books, she basically saved her life twice. You know, so it's like, maybe I'll give this guy a pass for this one. You know.
Yeah, I love how he asks her at the end. He's like, "Do you remember when we met?" She's like, "Oh, you mean the most traumatic day of my life? Like I have PTSD over. I'm still seeing a therapist. Yeah, I remember.
Obviously.
Did you have any other stock ups?
I have one last quick one. This is for audiobook listeners, really, but the band Live, stock up. Do you know who Live is, the band?
No.
Oh, okay. Do you know Lightning Crashes? I can feel it coming back again. No? I have a terrible voice.
No, you have a great voice. Voice of an angel.
Look up Lightning Crashes by Live when you have a second. Okay. But you'll probably know. It's like a 90s, almost like REM. Very similar REM sounding.
Okay.
But anyways, fun story about them. I mean, it's not going to be that fun since you didn't know who they were, but they were actually, and I heard this once, I have no idea if it's actually true, but I'm going to say it's true.
I like apocryphal stories.
They actually went by Live. That's their actual band name. But people
I know
saw
what you're
it,
saying here.
and it was live music. So they just say live. Everyone just calls it live. And they're like, oh, I guess we're live. Same word, obviously, right?
Yeah.
The narrator, is this guy trolling us? Was he trolling? He had to be trolling. Because he wasn't British. He wasn't have like some weird accent or anything. And he kept on being like, I don't even know. I can't even read it without thinking the right word. Because he'd be like, he lived there for a short time instead of like lived there.
Yeah.
Every single thing that was live should have been live, but he kept on saying lived.
Yeah, it was like he believed him. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, exactly. He had to be trolling. There's no way you would read it like that, right?
Yeah. There was another word he said too that I was like, wait, he's putting the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable or whatever. It was very confusing.
God. It's almost worth listening to the audiobook just to figure out what's going on with that.
All right, let's get into stock down. What do you got?
Edging, stock down.
Edging?
Yeah. I know you're a delayed gratification guy, dude, man. I know you are, right?
I don't know what edging is. Like with on a lawn?
No, edging is. I had to look it up.
Oh, okay. Here we go. Yeah. Now you're trying to back off whatever this is.
No.
I had to.
Edging involves sexual stimulation and stopping just before the point of orgasm.
Oh.
You've never heard that before?
No, I mean, maybe not that
you've
term.
You've told me about that. I'm really sure you've told me about that. But anyways.
I don't think I've ever heard that term.
Oh, what do you call it?
Just sex. No, I mean, I'm aware of that idea, I guess.
Just back to my point why it's stocked down. I came into this book ready to go. Let's just put it that way. If this were a commercial, if it's been over 4 hours, go to the hospital. I would need to go to the hospital is what I'm getting at. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah. I was ready. I needed this Mitch in my life. He made me wait. Delayed gratification, like you read about. We're 3/4 into the book before even killing anyone. You need to wet my whistle a little bit here. I need an appetizer. I need some sort of...
This is a really good stock down, honestly. Like the amount of thought you've put into this is... Because it's exactly what it was. Every other book we open up and it's like, boom, into Mitch Rapp stuff. Or like crazy things are going on. This book, he doesn't really do anything. Honestly, you're getting that. It's like, oh, okay, this whole bullshit with Anna and Donatella, or the whole thing with Anna and him getting out of the CIA for the first quarter of the book, and then also them calling back and filling us in on what happened in the last book. And then it gets to Milan and these guys are hunting Donatella. You're like, oh, okay, here we go. Mitch just kind of like knocks a guy out in a he doesn't really do much.
A bit presumptuous, right? He was like, this guy's talking on the phone. And he just like knocks him out. Like, he looked at me funny. It's like, see you later.
Yeah, exactly. So that, and then from there on out, you're like, oh, here the action's going to get ratcheted up. It was the unbuttoning of the pants in your analogy here, and from there we're just left. Nothing happens until the operation in Iraq, and really then it's more of Mitch being a master of disguise.
Well, he did walk in the place. I did appreciate that, but I needed more of that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He walks in like he owned the place. Master of disguise, like cool as a cucumber. I'm glad that Mitch has that ability as opposed to just going in there and shooting him up. Like that's cool because that's all we've seen so far. But he shoots one guy. And then that's it. They walk out with the nukes, and then it's the next thing you know, they're like, "Sir, the choppers are heading to Saudi Arabia. They're out of Iraq." It's like that was it. No other Republican guards are holding them up, and they got to shoot their way out. It was just in and out, easy peasy. I was edged. I'm still edged, honestly. I'm like the grandfather in a Road Trip. You know what I mean? Just walking around with that thing. That's a callback for anyone who's seen that movie, but. I'm with you. Edging. I like it. Stock down. My first stock down, being president. It's just like a lot, you know? I mean, at the end of the day, you're just a politician. Like, you're just a person who goes around and shakes babies and kisses hands, or whatever the case is. And now you got to deal with the Joint Chiefs, and they're giving you this explanation of all these different options that you can use to blow up this hospital. It's like, wait, what? Like, this just, it seems like I need a minute. You know, I'd be like, I need a minute here. This is like, should we use this nuclear warhead? Should we use this warhead? Should we use these missiles? How many Americans do you want to die? It's like, wow, this is crazy. Like, I was the governor of Arkansas before this, you know, what the fuck? And then not to mention, you have to deal with all the other heads of state. He's got this whole issue with the Israelis in the book that he's got to toe the line on and figure out, you know, what his next move is. And while you're just trying to do your job, you're just trying to survive day to day, you have other political folk in your own country scheming up ways to take you down. Mm-hmm. It honestly just seems like a terrible job. And it blows my mind that anyone would actually want that job. It just seems quite thankless, really. It's never going to be good. And obviously, we look back on some of our presidents and it's like, wow, what a great job they did, or whatever the case is. But in the idea being, oh, you know, I can further my country, I can, you know, make a name for myself. But Freakonomics already went through it and like really said that, you know, the president doesn't really matter to people's day-to-day lives. It's more about your local politician. So we can scratch that off it. And then how many presidents do we not even know anything about? Yeah, sure, I know their name. William McKinley. I know that guy's name. Grover Cleveland, because they named the school after him in Die Hard with a Vengeance. That's how I know that. That's how I know his name. But other than that, I don't know anything they did.
Well, it's also, too, it's like, what do you want to do with the Federal Reserve interest rate? Like, you also have to be like an economic genius.
Yeah, and obviously they have people around them.
That's why the president should just get up there when they're like debating and be like, listen, I'm not that smart, but I'm really good at like delegating. That's all.
Yeah,
that's the only job, you know, like I'm going to hire the best people.
And I think my image of like what the president does comes from just watching 6 seasons of The West Wing. So like Martin Sheen's character is like what I imagine the president's day to day is like. I'm like, that's freaking terrible. Like, I don't want that. Plus people shoot at you. Like, no, I'm good. Yeah. What else do you have for stock down?
Military auditing, stock down.
Okay.
They make this big point in the book that the military is tight with their money. And they're like, how'd you get these luxury cars? These like Mercedes. Like, oh, we got them from the impound. We found some drug dealers that have them. That's the only way we'd ever be able to get them. There's no way we could spend that much money on these cars to help with the most important mission we've ever run. We just couldn't spend it on that. There's no way. And then, like, the next chapter, they're like, yeah, so these Delta Force guys, they're, like, the best trained in the world. They fire 2,000 rounds a week. That's right from the book. Delta Force, I think they were saying, I'm going to estimate 12 to 15 in that group. But, like, a bullet, conservatively, is, like, over $1. Let's just call it $1. They're firing 2,000 every week amongst 12 to 15 people. That's $1.5 million just in that. You tell me you can't spend like $300,000 on a few SUV Mercedes? Like, what? Yeah. They're practicing. This doesn't include all the costs they have to do to be overseas, to have housing, to have AC
they live in
pumping.
Caves, so yeah, no, they were living in caves. That's where their outpost was.
Oh, all right. Well, never mind. I take it back. But I think they spend like they were saying in Iraq or Afghanistan, they spend like over $1 billion a year just on air conditioning. Can we get an audit here? Like, that doesn't make any sense. I don't know what's going on.
The whole government thing, once you start zooming out, like all these big numbers and stuff, it's so hard to really capture. You know, they say, oh, the defense bill has now risen to, you know, $675 billion a year. It's like, wow, that's a lot of money. But then get down to this, people shooting guns. They're like, people have to keep track of all of this stuff.
Yeah.
It just seems like that's a tough job too. All of this government work, it really seems tough. It doesn't seem fun. Besides like Mitch Rapp, who just does whatever he does. Even at the end, he's like, tells Hayes, just leave the room. He's just like, doesn't even call him like
That's
Mr. President.
The Mitch I know, kid.
Yeah.
The ending, I was like, I'm still in. I'm still back in.
He's just like, hey, Bob, get the fuck out of the room. Puts his hands on the president and makes him leave the room. Yeah. It's amazing.
Hey, bud, get out. See ya.
Talking about Mitch here, my next stock down is being in a relationship with a top CIA operative. Stock down. It seems like a pretty good partner. You know, he's got a steady job, definitely a pension, definitely, if he wanted to, could write a best-selling, New York Times best-selling book afterwards and make tons of money. But you don't realize, and I don't think Anna really did until now, that these guys are professional liars. They have to be so good at lying that they can go into a room where someone expects them to be lying to them and convince them they're telling the truth. Like, that's how good at lying they have to. They're basically playing the World Series of liars and winning every single time, because if you don't, you're dead. It's tough because you can ask them for the truth and they'll give you what seems like the truth, but it's definitely not. She's asking, oh, did you do this? Did you do that with Donatella? Or this woman, she doesn't know her name. Yeah, no, not really. Nah, none of that. You know, he's not, and he's so good at lying that he's actually not lying to her. You know what I mean? He's just answering the question in a different way so that he can then protect himself
Deflecting.
later.
Yeah, it's smart. It's like those bullets.
It's next level. It's next level what he's doing. And then she's wanting to learn more about him. And he's saying, I'm sorry, like, there's secrets, it's classified. I can't tell you this stuff. So anytime this CIA operative other person in your life, your significant other, could just be like, sorry, I can't, I can't talk about this stuff. She's like, were you fucking that woman? He's like, can't talk about it. Classified. Steel trap. Do you have any other stock up? Stock down, excuse me.
Nope.
I got one more. Doing shady shit, stock down.
Common theme here.
Irene Kennedy's whole plan on how to get out of the whole Orion team fiasco relies on these secret files that Stanfield has on different politicians. So basically, if you're a politician, just don't do any shady shit, right? And then you're good.
I think that's ingrained in them, though, right? I also, wasn't Rudin's whole thing, he was kind of right about everything, right?
Billion%.
He was kind of being a dick about it, but I mean, he was still right. He wasn't lying.
All the things that were unlikable about Rudin were all of the qualities of George Costanza. That's pretty much who he was. Like,
cheap.
Doesn't leave a tip. Exactly. Doesn't leave a tip. Wants to start a fight with everybody. Definitely a bit cantankerous. Gets naked in the locker room and drags his old balls across the floor, gets athlete's foot. Granted, George Costanza wouldn't do the last one, I don't think. But he was just like a not a good person, but in terms of being a politician who's thinking in terms of the public should be aware of what our government is doing, he was doing a fine job of that. Yes, you probably don't go on national television and just like start outing people. That's not a good look. But outside of that, he's just thinking, okay, the CIA has carte blanche to do whatever the heck it wants. It's assassinating all of these people. And I get both sides of it too.
What we talked about before is like, he's right if the people aren't Stanfield and Kennedy. If it's some loose cannon that's just going off and killing his enemies, people he doesn't like, then yeah, you probably should have some oversight on them. But because you're rooting for Kennedy and Stanfield because, oh, these are good people. Like, that's
and I think that's it. Yeah, they're like the most upstanding citizens. They're giving their life for the government. Exactly. Yeah, you just don't know in general, if you apply this to the real world, like who, what those people's motivations are necessarily. So when you have the amount of power to just kind of do whatever you want and they use their powers for good, it's like, oh, who should care? But there is the very real possibility that someone in Irene Kennedy's position would use those powers for their own personal gain or to, do whatever they want internationally. And that's something that we should be aware of. So Rudin, tough look, maybe you just put a couple more dollars on the tip and you'd be all right. But, unfortunate. And also just politicians, just don't do shady shit and no one's going to be on you for that. Keith, did you have a favorite scene in Separation of Power?
Two scenes that are my favorite, and why these always will be good books to me is just the Uday stuff. I love the walking out of place and the interrogation. Those are just like classic.
Which interrogation?
Mitch Rapp, president and the Israeli dude, and he's like, "All right, let's start negotiating." And Mitch's like, "Oh, cool," and he just shoots him in the leg. He's like, "Yeah, that's my negotiating tactics, bitch. Like, don't fucking talk back to me." And I was like, "Yes, bitch, yes." That's
when you eventually climaxed.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was when it was just. It was a mess.
Randy Marsh in front of the computer screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely a good finish because I was wondering how they were going to get.
Finish. Yep, definitely a good finish.
Friedman. Yeah, I was wondering how they were going to get Friedman on it and entrap him a little bit. I wish it was a little bit more cloak and dagger. He's like, oh, bring him to the Oval Office. He's sitting in the Situation Room. Like, oh, now it's all done. So I think I enjoyed the prep for the Iraqi operation more than the actual operation, because the prep is when Vinny Flynn got back to his Vinny Flynn roots of like explaining all of the different equipment they were going to need and the training for the helicopter pilots and
all the option. Oh, we could bomb this place, but then we're going to kill these civilians and we're going to get that low back. Or we could do this, but we might get soldiers killed. There's all those things that you have to factor in that you wouldn't ever think of.
Yeah, and it just, that part was nice. And then once Mitch gets on the ground in Iraq and he's actually talking with the guys, and at first they're a little like, who is this guy? Because they don't know necessarily he's Iron Man. I'm sure they do, but... And then he's immediately becomes the biggest swinging dick in the room just by his tactical planning. Like, he's just not even trying to be hard or anything. And that was not a euphemism. He's just able to do it by his bravado, and also, which isn't like in your face. He's just like, I'm here to help. Here's what I know. Let's get this shit done.
Yeah.
I love that version, Mitch. What'd you have for love?
The Uday stuff I thought was cool. Again, when I read this when I was younger, I had no idea what Uday was saying was. He was alive at that point when I was reading. And it was just kind of an interesting look into the life of what an operation would look like. I mean, just the standard stuff, Mitch stuff. And then the interrogation. Mitch just shooting people and asking questions later. I'll never get sick of it. There's just not a point that I'll ever get sick of that. I like that in every movie I watch. Anytime there's no like big giant battle, it's just the guy just shoots the person. Yeah. I always like that every time.
Gotta respect it. It kind of reminds me of Inglourious Basterds Brad Pitt, where he's like, nah, like, I'm gonna get chewed out. And I've been chewed out before. Like, that's just kind of Mitch Rapp's mentality.
Yeah, it is very like that.
Yeah, he's just, he doesn't care so much. He's like, I'm the most important person in the CIA. Obviously, Irene Kennedy's probably the most important person, but in terms of an operational person, he's number one.
Yeah.
What I loved was, at the beginning of the book, we spend a lot of time in Mitch's head or rehashing things that have already happened. But in chapter 2, Mitch takes a couple minutes to reflect on his kill count. And it was so great. It was awesome to me. I really enjoyed it. It was like how Magic Johnson must look back on his sexual conquest or something.
Magic Johnson has a pretty tough one on that
list. Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, sometimes they shoot back. But Mitch says he never bothered to count each and every person he killed. The obvious reason was that he preferred not to know. And the more practical one was that there was no way he could ascertain the actual number. It goes on to be like, with machine guns and explosives made the tally impossible, but the number was large. Rapp knew the number was well over 50 and possibly 100. And those were only by his hands alone. If he counted the times he helped lead special forces units on takedowns and the times he painted a target so U.S. jets could drop bombs, the number was easily double, if not triple. And I love this on two levels. One, Mitch says he doesn't like to think about all the people he killed, but then goes on this long internal dialogue thinking about how many people he killed. Lie to me, Mitch, but don't lie to yourself, right? You love murdering people. It's okay. That's your job. Your job is to murder bad people. You're good at it. Don't be like, oh, I don't like to think about it. Get out of here. And on another level, I love it because the whole time I was actually thinking about how Magic would be explaining it to like Cookie, his wife or something. But, babe, I have no idea how many women I've had sex with. I prefer not to know. And there's no way I could ascertain the actual number. With the booze and the threesomes, it makes the tally impossible. But yes, the number is large. I mean, and those were only the ones by my cock alone. If I counted the times I helped lead my teammates on takedowns or the times I painted the target, so to speak, so my buddies could drop bombs, the number would be easily double or triple. I was making myself laugh as I listened to that part of it because that was all in my head.
Donatella almost has 20 kills by her own hands. I'm like, those are rookie numbers. Got to put those numbers up. That ain't shit in this racket. Come on.
It's also weird to me that those guys that Friedman used were like, there's no way that she could have killed that many people. So I'm just going to pretend like she didn't and go about this operation like she wasn't one of the best assassins in Mossad. That seems like those guys didn't know what the heck they were talking about. What about hate?
The first two were better, clearly. Remember other books in the series? I don't really remember this one other than the Uday thing, and I thought it was much longer out in my head. But I do think in future books, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that he starts most of the future ones off with the death at the end for...
Senator Clark?
Yeah, that would usually start in the next book. So he'd be like camped out the house of the person he's about to kill. So you immediately get into the action, or like he's off in some operation and you're immediately get into the action, and then he comes back home to find out some other issue. This one was we've talked about it. I mean, I still liked it, but it was too slow to begin with for my loving.
Yeah, the book is more political intrigue than Mitch Rapp taking down terrorists like I take down Miller Lights on Sunday Football.
Well, the political intrigue stuff was fine with me.
I did.
The relationship stuff. I don't mind it being slow, but the relationship stuff was like, all right, like, what are we doing here?
Yes. So it's like, those are two of my hates in that one is the first 15 chapters, which is just Mitch and Anna having this back and forth battle about their relationship, which it doesn't matter to the book. And it just, which I do appreciate, it just like stops in the book and Anna's name isn't really mentioned until the end of the book. But we didn't necessarily need it. It doesn't make me feel like their relationship has grown because of this or anything. It's was filler for the first 15 chapters as opposed to getting into it, because they could have just got to where they were emotionally without any of that stuff. It didn't really seem like anything happened or Mitch grew closer to her by that experience necessarily. So I didn't care for it the first 15 chapters.
I do still think if like Mitch didn't do anything wrong and she was pissed, I think both sides would have been validated, right? Like you're like, well, I can see why she's pissed. I also can see why Mitch is pissed. But like Mitch, I feel like crossed the line. So you're like, I don't know, I'm not really on his side now.
100%.
Didn't really make a lot
Couldn't
of
agree
sense.
more. It was exactly that. It was a situation where Mitch was being kind of a dick.
Too Italian.
Yeah. And then at the end, it's just like all is forgiven. It kind of just makes Anna seem a little weak. I don't know. Wasn't really a fan. The other thing I hated was just like, Mitch Rapp was kind of an ancillary character in this. It was more of the political intrigue between the president, Rudin, and Senator Clark, which I'm fine with. In itself, as a book, it was like, that's cool with me. But I wanted Mitch. I came here for Mitch. It was like watching that first week of the NFL and seeing the Buffalo Jets game, being like, cool, I'm here to see Aaron Rodgers. And then Aaron Rodgers goes down. And yeah, the Jets ended up winning and it was a good game, but it was like, I really came here to see Aaron Rodgers throw the ball around and really go toe to toe. So it didn't really do it for me. And on the whole, how many times does Mitch even fire his weapon in this book? He kills the Republican guard towards the end. He shoots Friedman in the leg, which you climax to. And I'm not even sure he shot the assassin in the car or he just like beat him up. But outside of that, I think that's it. Maybe an applause to Vinny Flynn for making a book that's still good, even though Mitch Rapp's barely in it. But yeah, it just kind of seemed to me like one of those, you go see a movie, like I don't watch any of the Fast and Furious movies or whatever, but if you went to see that and like all the characters that you wanted to see aren't in it, except for like in piecemeal, it'd be like seeing Creed and Rocky's not in it at all or something like that.
Yeah, Can You Take Me Higher? Creed, great. You know Creed is, right?
The band. I am familiar with the band Creed, and I do enjoy Creed. I'm not anti-Creed.
No, I don't think really anyone is. I think that's the biggest lie told.
Yeah, their songs are awesome.
It's like when I pretended I didn't like the Backstreet Boys when I was in the 5th grade, even though I knew deep down.
Yeah, we all did. We all went through that. We were all too cool. Everyone goes through the too cool for school phase, and once you realize that if it makes you happy, just enjoy it.
Although I never was too cool for Creed. I think I've never denounced Creed ever.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's ever asked me, like, isn't Creed bad?
Do you denounce Creed? Yeah. Will you denounce them here or now? And I said, no, I don't care. You can sling your arrows at me. I'll stand up for them.
We have the Spanish Inquisition, except it's just for Creed.
Yeah.
Well, I will say we did get the Spotify recap, which I don't necessarily believe. It says that there's 136 people out there who have us in their top 10 or 75 people that have us in their top 5 podcasts. And the way my brain works, I'm assuming someone accidentally hit download for our, like, downloaded the app and then accidentally hit download for our podcast, and that's why. But if that's not the case, come on, reach out. If you read any of the books, we've done 70 now. I'd just be interested for what your take is on any one of these. Half the reason we started this was to engage with people about these books. I mean, we love each other in a book club fashion. We love each other outside of the book club too. But book club is community. That's what it is. So, bring the love, spread the love. I want to hear about it. Or other recommendations, there's not a lot of books in the world. We're running out. Keith, Separation of Power, Vinny Flynn, would you recommend this book?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're a Vince Flynn fan, you can't really go wrong reading this one. If I were introducing him to someone new, I would definitely start off with Transfer of Power. I mean, but again, if you enjoy Mitch Rapp, I don't think this is a top tier one, but it's still Mitch Rapp. That's at the end of the day, it's still Mitch Rapp.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I would 1,000,000% not recommend this first. But if you were, and I don't even think, I don't know, it's tough because the last one was all right, and you kind of, like, this finishes that story. But I think if someone said, hey, I think I'm going to skip this one and go to a different Mitch Rapp book, I'd be like, totally fine. Do it. No sweat. I could tell you in 5 sentences what happens.
You're not going to have a bad time. A lot of these other books that we read, I'll get angry because I'm like, why is this happening? Or like, it doesn't make any sense. This one's just like, yeah, no, this all checks out. I'd like it to be a little less relationship-y, but it is what it is, no anger.
And neither of us are like anti-relationship. I think we found that enjoyable in some books. Tomorrow was like all relationships, and that was interesting.
Daisy Jones and the Six, I liked a lot. That's my top
that's
10.
all about relationships, yeah. So, we're not just like guys talking guy stuff here. That's just the way this one worked out. What do we got coming up next?
Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr.
Mm-hmm.
He also wrote All the Light We Cannot See, which I think this is going to be a little bit above our pay grade, but hey, you know what? Sometimes you gotta test to see if you can fly, or something. Flap your wings or something.
We're either going to put on our smart pants or put on our dunce caps. One of those things are coming out. So, Keith, we did Mitch Rapp, We can always do another one. That's the best part. They're never ending. Mm-hmm. So that was fun, and we'll catch you all for Cloud Cuckoo Land probably coming out next week or so.
Alrighty.
All right. Bye now.
Bye now.